This picture went viral for all the wrong reasons. Bria Hartley with what fans called a sinister grin, while Sophie Cunningham writhed in pain on the court, clutching her knee after what looked like a brutal, intentional collision. The internet exploded, calls for suspension, death threats, family members getting involved. The whole WNBA world seemed united in one belief: Bria Hartley was a dirty player who smiled while destroying someone's season. But here's what nobody saw coming. Here's what every other channel covering this story completely missed. Sophie Cunningham herself just dropped a truth bomb that destroys everything you think you know about this controversy. And when I say destroys, I mean it exposes how social media can twist reality so badly that even the victim has to defend her own attacker. I'm Jax Riley, and you're about to discover why the most viral controversy of the WNBA season was built on a foundation of lies, cultural warfare, and mob mentality. The angle nobody's covering is that the person everyone was defending just told them all to stop. And what that reveals about WNBA fan culture will make you question everything you've seen online. If you're ready to go behind the viral narrative and discover what really happened when the camera stopped rolling, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this isn't just another injury breakdown. This is a masterclass in how modern sports controversies get manufactured, amplified, and completely hijacked by forces that have nothing to do with basketball. Let me start with the moment that supposedly changed everything. August 17th, Connecticut Sun versus Indiana Fever. Sophie Cunningham driving hard, Bria Hartley attempting to defend, collision, injury, viral photo. That's the story everyone knows. But the story everyone missed starts 3 days later on Cunningham's own podcast.
This picture is going viral with Bria Hartley with the sinister grin, right? This malevolent look that's on her face right now, clearly smiling after injuring Sophie Cunningham. Kind of excuses to say that Bria Hartley is not a dirty player. Let me tell y'all something, man. Come on in here. Come on in here, man. Let me tell y'all something. If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, eats like a duck, it's a duck, man. Come on, man. She is the dirtiest player in the WNBA right now, winning the trophy. All right? Winning the trophy for it. Don't sit here and try to tell me Bria Hartley is not a dirty player.
The duck metaphor. The dirtiest player trophy. The absolute certainty that this was malicious. This clip alone got millions of views across social media platforms. Fans weaponized it. Family members shared it. Media outlets used it as evidence. And through it all, one voice was completely ignored, the voice that mattered most. But before we get to that seismic revelation, let me paint the picture of just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Because what happened to Sophie Cunningham wasn't just a basketball injury. It became a cultural flashpoint that exposed every ugly truth about how the WNBA's rapid growth has created warring factions of fans who can't agree on anything. The collision itself was devastating to watch in real time.
Scary moment as we went to commercial. Sophie Cunningham hit the floor hard, and she is being helped off the floor, heading back to the locker.
That's raw pain, unfiltered emotion. And when you hear someone in that much distress, your protective instincts kick in immediately. You want someone to blame. You want justice. You want accountability. And when that viral photo started circulating showing Hartley appearing to smile while Cunningham was being helped off the court, fans had their villain. The internet detectives went to work immediately. They dug up every controversial moment in Hartley's career: the hair-pulling incident with Angel Reese, the fight with Rebecca Allen that got her ejected, previous altercations that built a pattern of aggressive play. Each incident was presented as evidence of a dirty player who finally went too far. But here's where the digital breadcrumbs lead somewhere unexpected. Because while everyone was building this case against Hartley, they missed the most important voice in the conversation, the person who actually got hurt.
Indiana Fever fans wake up pissed off today. Pissed off. Not only are we getting assaulted, but they're smiling about it. This is the 6th time They smiled, laughed, and cheered on our Indiana Fever players getting assaulted, getting injured. And it pisses me off.
Listen to that raw emotion. 6th time. That's pattern recognition. That's systematic targeting. That's a fan base that felt under siege and finally had visual evidence of what they believed was happening. And you know what? I understand that anger completely. When you're emotionally invested in a team, when you watch players you care about get hurt, your first instinct isn't nuanced analysis, it's protection. But sometimes protection turns into persecution, and sometimes the person you're trying to protect doesn't want your protection. 3 days after this viral moment broke the internet, Sophie Cunningham did something that should have been the biggest story in WNBA media. She went on her podcast and completely destroyed the narrative that everyone had built around her injury. Not with anger, not with drama, with friendship. She said, and I'm quoting directly here, that she and Bria Hartley are really good friends. She explicitly asked fans to stop criticizing Hartley. She confirmed there was no ill intent in the collision. The victim herself defended her supposed attacker and asked the mob to stand down. But did anyone listen? Did the channels making millions of views off this controversy update their narratives? Did the fans calling for suspensions reconsider their position? Of course not, because at this point, this wasn't about Sophie Cunningham or Bria Hartley anymore. This was about something much bigger and much more toxic. The cultural war that's been brewing in WNBA fandom since Caitlin Clark entered the league. Let me connect these dots that nobody else wants to acknowledge. The reason this incident exploded wasn't because of what happened on the court. It exploded because of what's happening in the comment sections, on Reddit, on Twitter, in every space where WNBA fans congregate and sort themselves into tribes.
Listen, Sophie Cunningham was targeted, y'all. I'm telling you right now, Sophie Cunningham was targeted by Bria Hartley, and it just is what it is. It is what it is. I don't want to sit here and play games and act like, you know, she wasn't. She was targeted by Bria Hartley, and that's just the fact of the matter. And people can act like it's not all they want. I told you guys this girl was a dirty player. And that's all she did today was show how dirty she is. And let's be clear here. Sophie Cunningham was targeted. Let's be very, very clear here. But Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty, dirty player.
Targeted. Flat out targeted. Dirty, dirty player. The conviction in that voice is unshakable. And here's what's fascinating from a narrative analysis perspective. This wasn't just about one play. This was about validating a worldview that Sophie Cunningham and by extension the entire Indiana Fever roster were under systematic attack. But systematic attack by whom and why? That's where this story gets really interesting, because it reveals a fault line in WNBA culture that most people don't want to discuss openly. The temperature of the online conversation around this incident tells us everything. You had fans of established WNBA players like Aja Wilson and Angel Reese celebrating the injury. You had newer fans drawn to the league by Caitlin Clark demanding justice. You had traditional WNBA supporters feeling invaded by this new audience. And you had cultural tensions that go way beyond basketball getting projected onto a basketball court.
You can tell Bria Hartley, in my opinion, she launched herself into her knee. She did. And I've seen some of the reaction online. And guys, it's despicable. It really is. There's a lot of people celebrating this injury. And guess what? You can imagine who it is. It's members of the old WNBA fandom, the ones that root for Paige Beckers and Angel Reese and Aja Wilson and all the usual damn suspects. Is Bria Hartley right here grinning from ear to ear with Sophie Cunningham smiling. I mean, that's despicable, folks. There's no other way to look at it. Yeah, how about this right here? That chick grinning after Caitlin Clark got slammed to the ground. And then this chick. I mean, really? Unbelievable.
The usual damn suspects. That phrase reveals everything. This analyst isn't just talking about one play or one player. He's talking about entire fan bases, cultural divisions, and competing visions of what the WNBA should be. The injury became a proxy war for much deeper conflicts, and in the middle of all this cultural warfare sat Sophie Cunningham, the supposed victim, watching people fight battles in her name that she never asked them to fight. Here's what they missed while they were busy being outraged. The WNBA announced a new task force in April specifically designed to combat online hate and harassment directed at players, advance technology to monitor social media threats, enhance security measures. This was supposed to be their solution to the toxic fan culture that was spiraling out of control. Instead, what happened with the Cunningham-Hartley incident became the perfect test case for everything wrong with that approach, because the harassment wasn't coming from outside the WNBA community, it was coming from inside. Fans were attacking players in the name of protecting other players. The call was coming from inside the house. But while the internet was busy destroying Bria Hartley's reputation and Sophie Cunningham was preparing to defend her friend, something incredible was happening on the basketball court. The Indiana Fever, down 21 points, missing multiple key players, facing one of the most physical teams in the league, decided to flip the script.
They're good human beings. You know, they're selfless, they're tough, they don't care who gets the credit, they don't care whose day it is. They got something inside of them that you just can't teach. And, you know, they bring it out of each other, and it allows us to go through these incredibly tough times that we're going through, and always gives us incredibly proud of them for continuing to believe, for continuing to pull together, for continuing to step up. I mean, every single person on this roster impacts winning for us. And every single person on this roster is valued for how they impact winning, whether they play a second or not. They give and give and give to this team, and I'm thankful.
Listen to the emotion in Stephanie White's voice, something inside of them that you just can't teach. That's leadership. That's perspective. That's a coach who understands that basketball is ultimately about more than individual moments. It's about collective resilience, and that resilience showed up in the most spectacular way possible. Kelsey Mitchell, who had just 4 points at halftime, went absolutely nuclear in the second half. 34 points after the break, 11 of 12 from the free throw line. Back-to-back threes in overtime that sent shockwaves through the arena.
Kelsey Mitchell has a new career high. Backdoor Mitchell bouncing in the paint for two. Kelsey Mitchell, the big is matched up. Mitchell squeezing through for two at the foul. Fouls on the other end. It's Mitchell launching it.
Career high, franchise record comeback, the highest scoring performance in the entire WNBA this season. While everyone was focused on controversy and conflict, the Indiana Fever delivered the kind of basketball moment that reminds you why you fell in love with sports in the first place. The narrative analysts in our audience will appreciate this irony. The game that was supposed to symbolize everything wrong with WNBA culture instead produced the most inspiring comeback story of the season. And the player everyone was trying to defend by attacking Bria Hartley chose to celebrate her teammates' heroics instead of nursing grievances. That tells you everything about Sophie Cunningham's character. And it tells you everything about how wrong the internet got this story. But let's dig deeper into what this reveals about the WNBA's growing pains. Because what happened here isn't just about two players or one incident, it's about what happens when a league experiences explosive growth without the infrastructure to handle the cultural tensions that come with it. The WNBA has seen unprecedented attention in recent years. New fans, massive television audiences, social media engagement that dwarfs previous seasons. But along with that growth came something unexpected, competing visions of what the league should represent and who deserves to be celebrated. Traditional WNBA supporters, many of whom are members of marginalized communities who found representation and inspiration in the league long before it was mainstream, suddenly found their space invaded by newcomers with different priorities and different heroes. The newcomers, Many, drawn by Caitlin Clark's college dominance and mainstream appeal, felt unwelcome in spaces they thought should celebrate basketball talent regardless of the player's background. These tensions were always simmering beneath the surface. The Cunningham-Hartley incident just gave them a focal point, and social media algorithms designed to amplify engagement regardless of accuracy turned a basketball collision into a cultural war. The filtering process that happens on platforms like Reddit shows you how these narratives get shaped. The WNBA community became a battleground between users defending Hartley against mob mentality and others cataloging her history of controversial plays. Each side had evidence. Each side had conviction. Each side believed they were fighting for justice, but justice for whom? And justice according to whose definition? That's where Sophie Cunningham's friendship revelation becomes so powerful, because it cuts through all the noise and gets to the fundamental truth. The person everyone claimed to be defending didn't want to be defended this way. She wanted people to stop attacking her friend. She wanted the mob to stand down. She wanted the focus to shift back to basketball instead of manufactured outrage. And what happened when she made this clear? Did the controversy end? Did people apologize to Bria Hartley? Did the channels profiting off this narrative acknowledge they got it wrong? Of course not, because at this point, the controversy had taken on a life of its own. It wasn't about Sophie Cunningham anymore. It was about validating pre-existing beliefs about players, fan bases, and cultural hierarchies within WNBA spaces. This is what I call the narrative temperature effect. Once a story reaches a certain emotional intensity online, facts become secondary to feelings, evidence becomes less important than engagement, and the actual people involved become props in other people's cultural performance. The WNBA's new anti-harassment task force is going to have to grapple with this reality. How do you protect players from harassment when the harassment is coming from people who claim to be protecting other players? How do you moderate communities when the toxicity is wrapped in the language of justice and accountability? These aren't easy questions, and the league's response to incidents like this will determine whether they can manage their growth successfully or whether cultural tensions will continue to overshadow the incredible basketball being played. But here's what gives me hope. Players like Sophie Cunningham, who choose friendship over feuds. Coaches like Stephanie White, who focus on resilience instead of grievances. Performances like Kelsey Mitchell's career night that remind us why we're here in the first place. The comeback that night wasn't just about overcoming a 21-point deficit. It was about proving that basketball can still transcend the noise when players commit to excellence instead of engaging with manufactured controversy. Mitchell's 38 points, Aaliyah Boston's double-double against Connecticut's bruising frontline, Odyssey Sims orchestrating the offense like she'd been running that system all season, Lexi Hull hitting the three-pointer that sealed it in overtime. That's a collective effort that represents everything beautiful about team sports. And when it was over, when the handshakes were finished and the cameras started to fade, the story continued in the locker room where Stephanie White told her players they would never be counted out. Not because of what they overcame that night, but because of who they chose to be when facing adversity. That's the narrative that deserves to go viral. That's the story that represents the best of WNBA culture. That's the angle that gets lost when we're too busy manufacturing outrage to celebrate actual achievement. Sophie Cunningham understood this, even while dealing with a season-ending injury. Even while watching people fight battles in her name, she chose to tweet Kelsey freaking Mitchell and celebrate her teammates' career night. She chose friendship with Bria Hartley over feeding the controversy machine. That choice reveals more character than any viral moment ever could. So what do we do with this information? How do we use Sophie Cunningham's truth bomb to rebuild better narratives around WNBA culture? First, we listen to the players themselves instead of projecting our own agendas onto their experiences. When Sophie says she and Bria are friends, we respect that instead of insisting we know better. Second, we recognize that social media amplification often distorts reality beyond recognition. The viral smile photo that launched 1,000 hate posts was taken out of context and weaponized by people who weren't even in the building. Third, we acknowledge that rapid growth brings growing pains. The WNBA's expanding audience includes people with different perspectives and priorities. Learning to coexist respectfully is part of the maturation process. And fourth, we remember that basketball is supposed to be the point. The incredible performances, the clutch moments, the team chemistry that produces historic comebacks. That's what deserves our attention and our celebration. The narrative analysts who follow this channel understand something that casual sports fans often miss. The stories we choose to amplify shape the culture we create. When we obsess over controversy and conflict, we get more controversy and conflict. When we celebrate excellence and character, we get more excellence and character. Sophie Cunningham choosing to defend Bria Hartley instead of feeding the hate machine is a masterclass in character. Kelsey Mitchell responding to adversity with the performance of her career is a masterclass in resilience. The Indiana Fever completing the largest comeback in franchise history while missing multiple key players is a masterclass in collective determination. Those are the stories worth telling. Those are the narratives worth going viral. But they require us to do something difficult. We have to choose substance over sensationalism. We have to prioritize truth over traffic. We have to value players' actual voices over our own predetermined narratives. The WNBA is at a crossroads. The league can continue growing while maintaining the community and culture that made it special, or it can let cultural tensions and manufactured controversies overshadow the incredible basketball being played. The choice is ours. The players are showing us the way forward through their actions on and off the court. Sophie Cunningham defended her friend. Kelsey Mitchell led an historic comeback. Stephanie White preached unity in the face of adversity. Now it's up to us to follow their lead. What do you think? Are you ready to prioritize friendship over feuds, excellence over outrage, and actual basketball over manufactured controversy? Let me know in the comments below, and let's start building better narratives together. If this deep dive into the real story behind the viral controversy opened your eyes to how sports narratives get twisted online, smash that like button and subscribe for more insider analysis that goes beyond the headlines. Turn on notifications so you never miss when we expose the stories other channels won't tell you. And if you want to see how cultural tensions continue to shape WNBA narratives, check out the video on your screen where we break down the next flashpoint that's brewing beneath the surface. The battle for the soul of WNBA culture is just getting started, and you need to understand all the players involved. I'm Jax Riley, reminding you that the truth is always more complex than the viral moment, and sometimes the most powerful narrative is the one that chooses healing over hatred. See you in the next investigation.